London, with its cultural and historical richness, comes to life with its fashionable afternoon teas, bright red double-decker buses, and the omnipresent Big Ben looming large. But beneath the bustling streets of this town-branded Sherlock Holmes novels lies a jarring reality that is all too often missed: an omnipresent upsurge of organized crime at the hands of the Albanian Mafia. Crime problems in London, which once existed only in the fantasy of detective fiction, are now a reality. A highly developed and barbarian crime network is fighting against the city. The Albanian Mafia, far from the traditional stereotype of traditional crime, became an influential force in the underworld of London. Their influence is deep and submerging into many aspects of London life. This is no ordinary mob. The crime lords come from Albania, which is celebrated worldwide for its aesthetic appeal and cultural riches. But the Mafia's presence in London is shrouded in the secrecy of a group of organized criminals not seen in recent times. Sophisticated in their tactics, secretive in their operations, and boundless in their ambition, these people have been expanding Albania's mafia throughout all of Europe for years through such activities as illicit drug trafficking, human trafficking, and smuggling guns. But it is in London, one of the most diverse cities, where their presence has most dearly been felt. It is largely due to its control of the cocaine market that the Albanian Mafia comes to dominate London's underworld. A long-standing wholesaler of cocaine throughout Europe, the Albanian gangs have close connections with South American cartels, thereby eliminating middlemen and making the supply chain much more streamlined. This immediate supply line has allowed them to flood the streets of London with cocaine at a potency and quantity without precedent in history, meanwhile logging record drug-related deaths and skyrocketing crime. How, then, did these Balkan gangsters manage to get such firm foothold in London? The story was that of roots dating back to late 1990s, when the Kosovo War sent tens of thousands of war-displaced Albanian-speaking refugees all around the world. Though many of them, including the modern warlords, found refuge in the UK. Amongst the displaced people are those who sought refuge as well as the opportune criminal gangs, who perceived various advantages in setting up new fiefdoms. London, with such a high population of immigrants as well as an underground economy, really presented fertile ground for the uprising of these newcomers. They founded themselves as not only violent intimidation specialists, but also excellent business models that rejected conventional hierarchies to become more fluid and network-oriented. Once a symbol of British resilience and order, the London streets had now become haunted by the bold acts of Albanian gangsters. One such group has made it into infamy, the Helbanians, especially in East London. The gang is notorious for their flashy display of affluence and love for social media. They often post pictures of guns, luxury cars, and wads of cash. All of this brazen behavior is a long way from an exhibition of criminal triumph, but rather a deliberate act to show off their strength and intimidate the community around them. The Helbanians' origins are rooted in Albania and Kosovo, but it spreads all over the UK, with London being the base for most of their operations. These gangs instill palpable fear and intimidation. People living in areas like Barking and Dagenham describe themselves as living in prison in their own homes due to the threatened violence of these mafia gangs. Local authorities, despite knowing that something is wrong, can only play catch-up. These are not just drug-dealing gangs. They traffic in human beings, wash money, and even commit murders while avoiding law enforcement efforts. What separates the Albanian Mafia from other crime syndicates is their adaptability and strategic affiliation with other infamous European crime groups, as well as international ones for increased territory. In contrast to significantly more home isolationist gangs, this particular kind of crime group, the Albanian Mafia, has formed an alliance with some other not-so-well-known crime groups. South American cocaine cartels, for example, and subsequently stole the UK cocaine trade. Their local networks enable a seamless cut of drugs across London's boroughs. This is not only an issue for the British capital, far be it. The Albanian Mafia has extended its reach way beyond the UK's borders. It dominates various parts of Europe, the Middle East, and even North and South America. Their criminal businesses straddle entire geographies, but have congregated in London as one of the key centers for strategic reasons in the global drug trade. At the core of the Albanian Mafia's success in London lies a business model that is both bold and disruptive. For years, drug importers and street-level dealers operated separately, with multiple layers of middlemen profiting off the distribution chain. The Albanian Mafia, however, revolutionized this system. By negotiating directly with South American cartels, they cut out the intermediaries, ensuring that their products, primarily cocaine, reached London's streets with minimal interference and maximum profit. This business-savvy approach has allowed them to dominate the British cocaine market, supplying drugs at prices lower than their competitors while maintaining a high level of purity. The result? A flood of cheap, high-quality cocaine that has made the drug more accessible than ever before, particularly to younger users. Britain, already home to Europe's highest number of cocaine users, has seen an unprecedented rise in drug-related deaths, many of them linked directly to the Albanian Mafia's activities. The sheer scale of their operations is staggering. Albanian criminals have managed to infiltrate key ports across Europe, including major entry points like Rotterdam and Antwerp, to ensure the steady flow of drugs into the UK. In some cases, they have even bribed port officials to allow shipments to pass undetected. The vast amounts of cocaine entering the country have fueled a surge in violent crime, as smaller gangs fight for control over the lucrative street trade. The Albanian Mafia's ability to operate with such impunity is largely due to their adeptness at money laundering. Once their drugs are sold on the streets of London, the profits are quickly funneled out of the UK, often to Albania, where they are cleaned through legitimate businesses, including construction and real estate. Money transfer services like Western Union and MoneyGram have been exploited to move millions of pounds out of the country without attracting much attention. Despite these sophisticated operations, the flashy and public behavior of gangs like the Albanians has drawn increasing scrutiny from both the police and the media. Their frequent social media posts, showcasing a life of excess and violence, have made them notorious figures in London's criminal underworld. But while their public displays of wealth might seem reckless, it's part of a larger strategy. By flaunting their success, they send a clear message to rivals and potential recruits alike. Joining the Albanian Mafia is a ticket to power and wealth. For London residents, particularly those living in neighborhoods controlled by these gangs, the reality is one of constant fear and uncertainty. Stories of intimidation, violent attacks, and drug-related shootings have become all too common. In many cases, these criminal groups have taken over entire housing estates, using them as bases for their operations. Ordinary citizens, often with nowhere else to go, find themselves caught in the crossfire of a war they never asked to be part of. But the impact of the Albanian Mafia extends beyond just crime statistics and social media bravado. Their presence in London has reshaped the city's drug economy, making cocaine more affordable and accessible than ever before. This, in turn, has contributed to the rise of smaller, local gangs that sell drugs at a street level, often to fund their own violent turf wars. Knife crime in London, already at an alarming high, has been further fueled by the increased availability of drugs, leading to a vicious cycle of violence that seems impossible to break. However, there is still hope. Law enforcement agencies, including the National Crime Agency, NCA, have made significant strides in disrupting the Albanian Mafia's operations. Large drug seizures, arrests of key figures, and increased international cooperation have begun to put pressure on the gang. But it's a complex battle, one that requires not just law enforcement, but also community engagement. Londoners must come together to resist the encroachment of these criminal networks and reclaim their neighborhoods from the grip of violence and fear. London has faced numerous challenges throughout its history, from wars to fires to economic crises. The rise of the Albanian Mafia may be one of the latest threats to the city's peace and security, but it's not insurmountable. With the right combination of law enforcement action, community resilience, and international cooperation, there is a path forward. The city's spirit has endured countless trials, and this one will be no different. The Albanian Mafia may have cast a dark shadow over London's streets, but as history has shown, shadows can always be driven out by the light of justice and unity. In the end, London's strength lies not just in its history or culture, but in its people. By standing together, the city can confront this challenge head-on, reclaiming its streets and ensuring that its future remains as bright and vibrant as its past.